don't really care what nobody think because this offense is going to need more than just a quarterback to be successful. It's going to take more than just a brand new quarterback for this offense to be successful. What's up, YouTube? Your boy back once again with another sport topic. And today we're going to talk some football, Houston Texans football. Today we're going to talk about if we getting a brand new quarterback, we got to give him some brand new weapons. Like, for real. If we're going to bring in a brand new quarterback, he has to get some brand new weapons. We're going to talk about, we're going to break it down. Before we get in there, like I've been telling y'all before, if you're liking the content, make sure you liking the channel. Make sure you watching all the videos. You comment all the videos. You sharing all the videos on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, any type of social media platform you use. Make sure you share it on the same social media platforms. Also, follow me on social media as well. The link's in the description below. Hey, like I said, it's about to be draft time, about to be free agent time. This Texas season is going to be a brand new season. It's about to be something extremely worth watching. So, hey, I need this channel to grow. And I need y'all help for this channel to grow. So, like the channel, subscribe to the channel, comment on the channel, watch all the videos, like the videos. Share the videos, share the channel, and let's get this channel growing and growing and growing. I really, really appreciate that. Now, like I said before, we getting a brand new quarterback. We already know we getting a quarterback with number 2 if it's Bryce Young, if it's CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, we getting a quarterback with the number 2 pick in the draft. So we need to get him some new weapons because as of right now, we got Brandon Cooks, who more likely will try to trade, but as of right now, he's still on the roster. You have Nico Collins. You have Mechie, who hasn't played yet, so we got him. And then you also got people like Chris Moore, who you had on the contract. You also got, what's his name, Philip Dorsett. Like, like you also got Jordan Akins as your tight end. You got Quarantino as your tight end. If I'm not mistaken, O.J. Howard is still on the team as your tight end. You really need some new weapons. Like, no, but you're not really comfortable with any of those guys I just named. Even though people are like, we haven't really seen what Nico had because we ain't had no quarterback. We don't really see. Even if that's the truth, you don't really feel comfortable because the best person in that equation is Brandon Cooks, and Brandon Cooks doesn't want to be here, and the majority of the fan base don't want him to be here. So, as of right now, you really don't feel comfortable with any of those receivers. I don't care if people say, I like Chris Moore, I like Philip Dorsett. Y'all really don't feel real comfortable with those receivers. Don't let that stuff, don't let the Texan fandom talk you into those receivers. Like let's be clear. Don't let the fandom, because we Texan fans, talk you into these guys, because none of these guys, you are not completely 100% sold on none of these guys. I don't care what you're thinking. You're not really sold on none of these guys. Like, if you want to be honest with yourself, you are not. So, it makes sense for the Texans to go out there and find some new weapons. Now, I know you can do this via free agency. As of right now, there's really not any guys, free agents, from a free agent standpoint, or a receiver that I want. Maybe via trade, like T. Higgins, because I know he wants a new contract. If T. Higgins become available, I know also same thing with Brandon Ayuk. I know he liked a lot of tweets and a lot of posts with him in other team jerseys. I think the Texas jersey is one of them once we hired D'Amico. Maybe if he becomes available, if Miami wants to move on from Waddle because they won't be able to pay him because of the second. Like, other guys could become available, but until those things are there, we just basing off the NFL draft. And I believe the Texans should draft a receiver. Now, I don't want them to draft a receiver too, because I know we got people talking about, Quentin Johnson and Jordan Addison. Like I told y'all before, I would prefer the Texans to move back. I want the Texans to move back from 12 and acquire more draft picks. But once you move back and you in that 20 range, there are some receivers in the 20 range, in the second round, and the third round that I would definitely like. Probably my number one receiver as of right now is on my board is probably Zay Flowers, the receiver out of Boston College. He's a big play guy. I think he's like 5'9", but he's a big play guy. He reminds me of a faster version of Steve Smith. He kind of plays like Steve Smith slightly to me. And he's a faster version. And he jumps up and goes get the ball. He's able to make a lot of moves. He's a down the field threat, which is something that I need because I actually do like Nico. I like Nico coming out of Michigan a couple of years ago. And I do think you are correct that Nico hasn't had a real good shot because of the quarterback and also the offensive system that he was in. But like I said, if I'm telling you honestly, am I fully comfortable with Nico Collins? Absolutely not. I don't believe the Texans have a number one receiver on their roster. Now, I also don't think there's really a true bona fide number one receiver in this draft. I think it's guys that are one-ish. Like, maybe possibly in the right court with the right quarterback and the right system, they could become number one receivers, but they're not just bona fide like Hopkins and Andre Johnson and Calvin Johnson and Jettas and Jamar Chase and things like that. They're not just number bona fide receivers. You put them on any roster in the NFL, they the number one receiver on their team. Like, I don't think that. I think they kind of like Amari Cooper, who's a one-ish guy. Like, Amari Cooper is really not a number one receiver, but in the right system, getting the targets, Amari Cooper can become a number one receiver or be the number one receiver for their team. And I'm not saying these guys are Amari Cooper. I'm not saying these guys are better or worse than Amari Cooper. I'm just saying in that type of, like, Amari Cooper is not a typical number one receiver, but he could be number one receiver depending on the system where he's in, or he could be a number two receiver, just depending on the system and who's surrounding him. So my number one receiver on the board is Zay Flowers. That's who I like. And I know Ray, shout out to my boy Ray. Ray does not want any receiver. I think he said like in the first two or three rounds. I completely disagree with him. Depend on how the board falls, and also what do you do with that 12th pick? If you move back from that 12th pick and also you move Brandon Cooks and acquire a fourth or a third. I think Brandon Cooks is going to bring you anywhere from a fourth or a third. He's going to bring you a fourth or third. Hopefully, you can get a two, and that's one of my gripes about with Nick Caserio. If he would have moved on from him in the middle of the season, he possibly could have got at number two. The rumor is he would have had number two with Dallas. Possibly could have got number two with Kansas City, like a contender who was ready to buy high on Brandon Cooks because he could help them win a championship. I think he should have moved on Brandon Cooks early in the season, would have got a bigger payback. But can't cry over spilled milk. Hopefully now you can get a third. You might end up getting the fourth, which is fine, as long as you get something. Now again, and you move back from 12 and acquire more picks. This is a situation where you can end up with you already got 2 threes. You can end up with 3 threes and a 2 and 2 twos, or possibly two threes and 2 twos, or 3 twos actually. Or if it's where if you can get some 3s and 2s and 4s back, this is where you can end up with 2 4s, 3 threes, and 2 twos. Depending on how you move back in the draft, and also trade Brandon Cooks. That allows you more draft capital to either jump up and get receivers or to take a flyer on a receiver. Even though I know Ray's over there probably pulling us here because he doesn't want the Texans to draft a receiver in the first 2 rounds. That's the reason why I want the Texans to be able to make these moves, move back from 12, and also move on from Brandon Cooks to acquire all this draft capital. That way you can make a play on a receiver like Zay Flowers in the 20s. Like I said, if you move on to that 20, anywhere from that 20 to 24 range, 25 range, that's a perfect spot for Zay Flowers. I believe you could take him, especially with the extra draft capital I'm talking about. Not to mention, you got Keyshawn Butte, who you possibly can get in the second round. And whoever gets Keyshawn Butte will be a very, 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 very lucky franchise. Keyshawn Butte would have been a first-round pick. He was slated to be a first-round pick all season long. He decided to go back to school, then the whole situation, the off-the-field issue, and that's the reason why he ended up declaring for the draft. And because of that, because of that off-the-field issue, they have him going in the second and the third round. But he's a first-round talent. He's another guy who I believe is number one-ish. He could be a number one depending on the system and also depending on the scheme and things like that. Now, he is a slot receiver, but he can play outside. And I know a lot of people, want Njigma. I don't think the Texans should draft Njigma because Njigma plays the exact same role as Mechie. Now, like I said earlier, we don't feel comfortable about none of these receivers, but I think probably the receiver that a lot of people feel the most comfortable about is Mechie because we have yet to see him yet on the NFL field. So we don't know where he's going to be in the NFL. So you're extremely optimistic because you haven't seen him yet on the NFL field. So because of that, the type of receiver that he is, Njigma and Mechie play the exact same role. So because of that, I don't want Njigma because they play the exact same role. Now, Keyshawn also can play that role, but I believe Keyshawn Boutte is a better outside receiver than those two guys. So you can't play him on the outside, and I think he can fit just fine. My only thing is about, and I like Keyshawn Boutte. My thing is I want somebody who's more of a down the field threat. That's the reason why I would rather take Zay Flowers, because I think he's a better down the field threat. Now, also another guy who's a down the field threat, and that's Tank Dell, Tank Dell out of U of H, and he's a guy I think you could possibly get. He's climbing up the boards now, but I think he's a guy you can get in that third round. So especially if they move on from Brandon Cooks and acquire a third round pick, or like I said, get an extra third round pick, and they have 3 third round picks, they wouldn't have to move, I think, and they'll be able to get Tank Dell somewhere in there. Tank Dell is lightning quick. Him and Zay Flowers kind of play the same role. They kind of play the same role. I think that Tank Dell is quicker and a little bit more electric than Zay Flowers. I think probably Zay Flowers is a better catcher. He's a better attacker of the football, as far as like when the ball's up in the air. He's going to attack the football. I've seen Zay Flowers split the two defenders that he run, and then also come into the safety and out jump the safety for a touchdown. So I do think he attacks the ball a little bit more. But when you watch Tank Dell, he makes a lot of electric plays. He's extremely electric. Also, is a guy you can use in the return game as well. A guy who could probably he's a guy who can make back-breaking plays for a defense. He's a guy who can break the defense back. He can break the defense wheel because of the type of lightning speed that he has, the quickness, the way he can get bottled up and shift and juke and shake and move out. And like I see him step back and step forward and cross up again and do this and do the Wakanda Forever with his legs and then move back and then boom. And just take out running. Like, he's extremely, extremely, extremely electric. The problem with him is that he might be one of the smallest players in the NFL, because there's a rumor that he's probably like 6'8", 6'9". I mean, 5'8", 5'9", weighing 167 pounds. That's extremely small. Like, extremely, extremely small. Extremely small. Even though he's a receiver, and I mean you got small receivers out there, and I think that he's probably more lightning quick than those guys, and I think he can make a lot of splash plays. But those type of things do concern me. Now I do agree there is a different NFL, and people don't really get hit across the middle like that. It's just that I can see why it's a concern. And if you're gonna ask me who I'd rather have out him and Zay, I would take Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, play against a little bit more contact. But, like I say, Tank Dell is extremely electric. I have no problems with him. I would like both of them if you could get both of them. Depending on the type of draft capital you have and how the board's falling. If you can get both of them, that's extreme luxury, because I believe the Texans do need multiple receivers. Now, they probably more than likely won't get multiple receivers in this draft, but especially if you're moving on from Brandon Cooks, like I said, you don't feel comfortable realistically with none of the receivers that you have on the roster. You have a lot of question marks with all these receivers if you want to be honest and objective. Like Mechie, we have yet to see Mechie. We might be openly optimistic with Mechie, but we have yet to see him yet. We haven't seen him play yet. We don't want Brandon Cooks on the team. We blaming Pep Hamilton and on Nico. We haven't got Nico a chance yet, but I think you're just talking yourself in there. Philip Dorsett been playing in the NFL for a while, and y'all saying y'all okay with him. Like, really, what has he done? And same thing with Chris Moore. Like, people act like Chris Moore was like a rookie or in his second year. Like, Chris Moore's like 30 years old, like 31 years old. Like, Chris Moore's been in the NFL for a while, played for the Ravens. Chris Moore's been in the NFL for a minute. Like he's been in the NFL for a minute. He's not a young guy. He's been in the NFL for a minute. Maybe he might be 28, 29. But he's been in the NFL for a minute. Like he's been in the NFL for a while. So to say that people, I think because people don't know him, they feel like he's a younger guy. He's been in the NFL for a minute. And I think you're just talking yourself into these guys if you want to. But if you want to be honest, I'd rather go in with some of these new guys. Also, you got Rasheed Rice, the receiver out of SMU. He's a bigger guy now. He's a guy who's, I think, like 6'2", 200-some pounds. He plays more of a Nico role. Like him and A.T. Perry, Yeah, A.T. Perry. Yeah, from Wake Forest. They play more of a Nico role when you see them, but when you look at Keyshawn Butte, you look at Zay Flowers, even Josh Downs, the receiver out of North Carolina, another guy who's lightning quick and who's a down the field threat. There's a lot of down the field threats in this draft. I know people talk about Jordan Addison. I know people talk about Quinn Johnson. Like Quinn Johnson, I kind of agree with what your caller was saying, because I want to like Quinn Johnson, and I see a lot of tape on Quinn Johnson that I like, and then Quinn Johnson does go stretches where he just disappears and you don't see him no more. Like he plays big in a couple big moments, and then this plays we just where is he at? Like where's Quinn Johnson? Oh, he big tall guy with dreadlocks. I see him now. Like he disappears. Addison, like Addison's a down the field threat. I have no real issue with Addison. My only issue really with Addison is that you'll probably have to take him with the 12th pick. And I don't want to take really anybody outside of, like I said in my last one, outside Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, or Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, or Miles Murphy with their 12th pick. If none of those guys have fallen to 12, I prefer for the Texans to move back, acquire more draft capital. So because of that, I'm not really cool with taking Addison at 12 because I feel like you can get A.T. Perry and he's just as good, if not better than Addison. I believe that Josh Downs is just as good, if not better than Addison. I think Tank Dell is just as good, if not better than Addison. I think Keyshawn Butte is just as good, if not better than Addison. So I'm not trying to take Addison at 12. Quentin Johnson probably has the best chance of being a full-fledged number one receiver in this whole draft. I don't know if he's actually going to step into it because, like I say, he takes not that he takes plays off, but he does disappear. He's a disappearing act. Like I say, when it comes to Njigma, I think Njigma plays the exact same role as Mechie, who you have on the roster, and I'm really not just all that high on Njigma, to be honest. Again, I think A.T. Perry, not A.T. Perry, but I think Zay Flowers, Josh Downs, Keyshawn Butte, Tank Dell are better than him. I'd rather take those guys over him, and I think you can get those guys you can get Zay Flowers in the 20 range, and then the second and the third round you got Downs, you got Butte, you got Rashee Rice, and you have Tank Dell, and if you get and accumulate extra draft capital, you'll be able to get these guys with no problem. And shout out to my boy Wise, because Wise has said this basically since the middle of the season that the NFL draft is going to be in 2003. The NFL draft is going to be in 2023. In 2003, Texans draft Andre Johnson. 2013, 10 years later, the Texans draft DeAndre Hopkins. Now we in 2023. So so 10 and 20 years ago, the Texans drafted a number one receiver. Now both of that time happened in the first round. It kind of benefits the Texans to draft a receiver in the first round. It actually really do. It benefits the Texans. As if history repeats itself, the Texans draft a receiver in the first round, and he becomes your bona fide star stud receiver. That's how history repeats. Shout out to Wise. Wise brought this up. So that is history kind of repeating itself a little bit. I don't know if they're going to do it in the first round, but I definitely think the Texans should draft a receiver within the first 3 rounds. And like I said, I think they should move back, acquire more draft picks so it's a little bit more feasible, because I know we got other needs when you're talking about D linemen, linebackers, pass rushers, offensive linemen, safeties. You have other needs out there. I feel like receiver is a need, tight end as well. You have other needs out there. That's the reason why. Like I said, hey, if you move on from Brandon Cooks and pick up an additional third, now you got 3 thirds. You already got 2 thirds. Now you got 3 thirds. You move back from pick 12 to, like say, to pick 22, and you pick up an additional third and fourth. Now you have 4 threes. Now you could take 2 of those threes and jump up back into the second round to get one of these receivers, and or to jump up to go get a pass rusher, and or to jump up to get a defensive lineman, and or to jump up and get a linebacker if at pick 22 you draft Zay Flowers. You draft a receiver. Like, you're able to do it. I'm not saying as the board falls right now, you just draft. I'm saying you need to accumulate picks, and it makes it a little bit more feasible, and it makes it a little bit more reasonable for you to draft these receivers and get offensive linemen and get defensive linemen and get linebackers and get all these other things that we claim that we need, that we do need. I'm not saying we don't need these things, because we absolutely do. But we also need to get our new quarterback some weapons. We gotta be honest. Cause I mean, that's one thing that people are always saying about when it comes to CJ. CJ had the best receivers CJ had the best receivers in college football. He had the best. Well, okay, if we draft CJ, get him some receivers. Same thing with Bryce, because when Bryce won the Heisman, he had receivers. So draft him some receivers. When the Bengals drafted Joe Burrow, #1 overall, what they do with their next pick? They drafted T. Higgins. And then what they do? Then the next following year, need offensive line help, they draft Jamar Chase. What did the Dolphins do after they drafted Tua? They drafted Jalen Waddle. I think they drafted Jalen Waddle the same year they drafted Tua, didn't they? Didn't they both come in the 2020 draft? Didn't they both? No. He came out the following year. Waddle came out the following year. So yeah, you draft Tua one year, the next year you draft the Waddle, and then what you do? Then you make a trade for Tyreek Hill. Then you make a trade for Tyreek Hill. Like, you gotta get these guys some weapons. That's the whole complaint about Lamar Jackson. He ain't got no receivers in Baltimore. That's what everybody complaining about. So you have to get these guys some weapons. He has to get some weapons. Like, subscribe if you haven't, comment below if you haven't, click that bell, get more videos. I'll holla.